If you think about your website, that is your first interaction with a client, right? So before a client even calls you, before they even, walk into your studio space, they're Googling, pole aerial studio near me, you're coming up, and then they're clicking on your website, or they're looking at your reviews, or they're going to your social medias, right? So that first impression is so, so, so important. Yes, you want to have a lot of information out there so that people can be as self-serving as possible, but you don't want to overwhelm them, right? You want to give them enough information to get to your studio.
You're listening to The Aerial Hour, episode number 27. The Aerial Hour is a show that dives deeper into what it takes to build a sustainable business in the aerial industry. Hey there, creatures! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Aerial Hour. I'm your traveling host, Tara, and I am currently in Carlsbad, New Mexico. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you so much for checking this out. This show features interviews from aerial and pole businesses who are making things work. My hope is that you walk away from each episode with a little bit more knowledge about our industry. Before I get to today's episode, let me share with you a couple of things. First up is today's sponsor, who just so happens to be Dr. Jenny Poles, which is an online platform providing injury prevention education specifically for the pole dance community. Dr. Jenny is on a mission to helping pole dancers decrease risk of injury and improve performance through a better understanding of their own anatomy and biomechanics. As a licensed athletic trainer with a PhD in health and rehabilitation science, Dr. Jenny has an extensive clinical and research background in sports medicine. She has worked with all kinds of athletes, Olympians, professional athletes, and most recently, pole dancers. You can also find her writing content for pole dance blogs such as the IPIA and even the Aerial Hour podcast, which I highly recommend checking out our last blog post, which she helped us write. After getting tired of hearing pole dancers sustaining preventable injuries, she founded Dr. Jenny Poles, putting to use her clinical background, medical expertise, and years as a pole dancer and instructor. Through this platform, Dr. Jenny offers educational courses on injury prevention as well as one-on-one virtual consultations. She also collaborates with studio owners to offer online workshops on topics of interest. Dr. Jenny just launched her platform, starting with her most popular course, Shoulder Injury Prevention Techniques Every Pole Dancer Needs. It can be found on app.namastream.com/Dr. Jenny Poles, which I'll also link in the show notes, so make sure to check them out. One lucky winner will receive this course completely free. All you have to do is head over to Instagram, follow at Dr. Jenny Poles, and leave a comment or DM stating the Aerial Hour podcast brought me here to be entered into the drawing. So what are you waiting for? Head over there now, because these are literally things that every pole dancer should know. You can also email Dr. Jenny at info@drjennypoles.com. And again, I will link to all of these things in the show notes, so make sure to check those out. Thank you so much, Dr. Jenny, for sponsoring this episode and just sharing your knowledge. You're such an asset to this industry, and I can't wait for more people to find out about you. And make sure to stay tuned for her episode, which is coming up soon. I'm so excited for her to be able to share some of her knowledge with all of us. And now to today's episode. Today's episode features the absolute powerhouse of a business owner, Kristen Rodríguez of Shine Fitness Studio in Hurst, Texas. What's interesting about Kristen is her background, and she actually moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a job in tech and ended up becoming a pole dance studio owner. She fell in love and has translated her expertise in the tech world into running her business. This episode is jam-packed with so much helpful information for you to take and run your business. Kristen shares about balancing a full-time job in tech and opening a studio, and ultimately leaving her full-time job in tech to run her very successful studio. We also chatted about knowing when the right time to expand your business is, having a great team behind you, and running your business remotely. What? A studio owner that's running their business remotely? Yes, you'll want to stay tuned for that. And I really can't believe, again, how long I've sat on this episode for, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you. And on a quick personal note, it feels really, really good to be back. I kind of went on this unintended hiatus where I just needed to focus on my actual business as well as myself and traveling and trying to enjoy life a little bit, as well as just feeling overall burnt out. However, I've been able to get back to the show, get a little help with the show, and it feels so good to be connecting with all of you again. So for those of you that have been around since the beginning, thank you so much for sticking with me. And for anyone new that's tuning in for maybe the first time, thank you for discovering us, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, I think I've said everything that I need to say, so I'm going to go ahead and have Phil roll the tape. I'll see you all on the other side. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Aerial Hour. Today, I am in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am at Shine Fitness Studio with Kristen Rodríguez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing.
Yes, we have just been hanging out and chatting up a storm while it's raining outside, so that makes a lot of sense. And we're going to talk about her amazing journey to where she's at today. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your space?
All right, so I'm Kristen. Right?
Hey,
it's me.
Yeah.
So I started pole in 2013. I moved up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area from a small college town in Central Texas after I got my business degree. So I came up here to start my career in IT because I thought that I was going to be an IT nerd forever. And I needed a good way to find friends and a community because I literally knew nobody. Like I had one friend when I moved up here. So I was like, I have to find a way. And I remember telling my older brother, who I call Bubba. So when he listens to this, shout out.
Shout out to Bubba.
Shout out to Bubba. But I remember sitting and running errands with him or something and saying hey, I'm going to try a pole dancing class. And he was like, that's pretty cool. Because we didn't have anything like that back home.
Okay.
And it's pretty conservative as well. So something like pole dancing is just what?
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you think mom and dad are going to say? Which now where we're at, they're super supportive. So,
right.
But I was like, I don't know. Who cares? I'm doing it. So I found a studio in right down the street from where I was working and living at the time.
Very cool.
And that's where I got my start. And then in 2018, after years of instructing, years of practice, I decided to branch out and open my own space, which is scary.
I'm sure.
But God, it's been so rewarding.
Yeah.
It has been the best journey. It's been, I don't know. I just can't imagine life being any different, and the things that it's allowed me to learn about myself and to just the way that I've been able to spread just joy and shine, right, to other people has just been so fun. And I can't believe that we're sitting in this grand space that we're in now.
Seriously.
From where we got our start. So
let's talk a little bit about that. How big is your current space?
So the current space is 1,500 square feet.
Wow.
1,500 square
That's
feet, which
crazy.
is okay, so our first space, 388 square feet, which is a closet.
Wow. And you started with just pole, correct?
Just pole.
Okay.
And then about 4 months before we moved into our current space, we added hoop. So we were doing pole, hoop, and then we had one flex class.
Okay.
And then when we moved into this space, it became full pole and aerial.
Very cool. And we're going to get into all of that.
All of the things.
All of the things. What made you initially fall in love with pole or aerials?
I think it was the fact that I was learning to love me and learning to love the skin that I was in. I grew up, like I said, my hometown is pretty conservative to the point that, I don't speak my native language of Spanish, right? I don't speak Spanish because of racism. And so I always felt like me being a Latina woman that I wasn't necessarily the right, person, I guess. And so when I found Pole and I found a community that like loved me for me was so incredible. And so it was just like that journey of like learning how to love myself, learning to love like my brown skin and my dark features, and like learning how to accept that I could speak another language and it'd be okay. And I still don't know Spanish, unfortunately, but I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, my parents didn't teach us because of something like that. That's really like what I loved about it. And I knew that I just wanted to spread that eventually. I didn't know how I was going to spread that love and how I was going to do it. But I just loved like that transformation within myself and like just being me, being Kristen, and like learning what that truly meant. And then I think the second biggest thing was that community that really pushed me to learning and accepting who Kristen was. And they loved me like in the studio, but they also like loved me outside the studio too. Like they were cheering me on in my career, and they were cheering me on in relationships and friendships, and you know, my maid of honor is a girl that I met at the studio. You know, actually 2 of my bridesmaids are, you know, girls that I met at my studio. And I think that that's so important, you know, in finding your home is one, learning to be happy in you, but then also that community behind you.
Yeah. It's insane how supportive this community can be. I know we still have work to do, and maybe not everywhere is as inclusive, but the moment that I walked into the studio, I immediately felt at home. And same with this studio. It's so welcoming. And I think the people that gravitate to it are just the right ones. It's just, And I think that the people that are coming to our studio are in some ways a little broken, right? I was, for sure.
I was definitely,
right.
I mean, but, and I think it's just so beautiful watching people come in, you know, like their shoulders are kind of down, they're not like as confident in themselves, and then watching over that next hour in class, and then that journey over the months that they spend here to like those shoulders, you know, back, proud chest, and chin up high, and like watching them succeed, and then going out in their careers and saying, you know, demanding a raise or whatever, you know, because they've built this confidence and they've understood their worth. I get like full body chills every time I think about it. Every time I think about just how incredible
it is. I remember like the first time I saw somebody do an Aisha and being like, that's never gonna happen for me. Like I'll never be able to do it. I can work as hard as I can, but it's never gonna happen. And then it happened, and that confidence that gives you to believe in yourself, like, oh, all I have to do is practice this or work at it, and I can do this. I can do these things that defy gravity. There's nothing that can explain that transformation. We were talking about it before, just how important it is to these apparatus in these spaces. So I totally identify with that. Did you instruct before you opened your space?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did, yeah. So I got certified through X-Pole.
Nice.
And honestly, I got certified not necessarily because I knew that I wanted to teach, but I just wanted to know more.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to know how to better help my friends in class, right? Not necessarily like I wanted to like teach them well, but I just wanted to know the background. And then an instructor position opened up, and I started instructing, and I had amazing students. Some of them still, you know, come to the studio here, even though it's pretty far. There's a good distance between us. It's like 48 minutes to like an hour.
Okay.
Like literally DFW is huge.
Texas is huge.
You drive and you drive and you drive. And you're still like in Texas.
We've literally been here for like a month, and we've only explored like the east upper coast. Like it's crazy. There's so much.
There's so much in Texas. It's so incredible how big the state is.
It is.
But DFW itself, like 9 miles is like an hour away.
Wow,
like, it really, I mean, that's just the nature of it. But so I was instructing for many years, and there was an opportunity to open a small space, and I was like, I think this is my calling and I think I want to do it, and I want to reach out to an area that didn't have any kind of studio doing what we were doing, right? So I decided to open up that studio in the small little 388 square feet and go, you know?
So how did you originally find that space, and how did you, like, what market research did you do in order to determine that this was the correct space for you?
So there was an existing infrastructure, I will say. So like a girl was teaching just one-off pole classes here and there in this existing yoga studio. And a friend of mine said, hey, she's no longer teaching. I think they still have the poles there. Why don't you reach out and see if they need some instructors? And I was like, maybe I'll start, this is like my time to start the studio. And so originally I was just going to reach out to see if they needed instructors, but then it kind of segued and turned into, no, I think this is a business. Like, I think this is actually like what I want to do. So that was a really interesting like twist and turn. Yeah. So the biggest thing for me as far as like market research was, how big of a population do we have? What are our demographics, right? For us, we're in suburbia, right? So we have a lot of like moms, and we have a lot of college students. We have a lot of young professionals that are coming to our studio. And I wanted to make sure that we were in an area that was accessible. So we're surrounded by highways, but we're on like the main drag of, there's 4 different cities that on this one street, right? There's 4 cities that you're gonna go through on this. So I wanted to make sure that I was central to it so that we could reach out to a lot of women. Now, we're not necessarily like only women, but that's just who has come to us, right? And so I started just going and meeting different people and talking about what I wanted to do and what we were going to do. And some people, one person particularly, I remember this because I was like a little traumatized after it, but I told her, I was like, oh yeah, I'm opening up a pole dance studio at this location and whatnot. And she looked at me and said, oh, that's hilarious. And I was like, ugh, like full like gut punch, because I was like, this was like my first like just going around talking, and somebody was talking about how my business was hilarious to them. And unfortunately that happened a lot, right?
Yeah, that's sad.
It is sad because people just don't understand what we do in our industry, and they don't understand the transformation that people are going through when they come and take these classes. That's also what I'm trying to do, is educate this area and the world. I'll take on the world. Yeah. Right there with you. I'll take it on, and really just explaining like that what we do, it is 1, a form of fitness, and 2, it is a transformational form of fitness that is changing people's lives. So yeah. I don't know if that like answered all the things in one ramble, but that does. So you worked with this yoga studio to teach classes. I think you mentioned during their off time. Yeah, so
which is really smart, especially starting out.
My upfront cost was like 0. Right?
Smart.
I wasn't really sure if this area was going to take to it. I didn't know if they were going to be receptive. I had no idea, right? I had the one side that was telling me my business was hilarious, right? And then I had another side that was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yes, we need this, right? And so I was living for this, yes, we need this, but I knew that I had to be really smart about it. So I rented that space in their off hours, and luckily they had the poles there still. So I even rented the equipment from them with the understanding that I would be the sole pole instruction that was happening in that space, so they couldn't like put their own pole classes on if they wanted to. And we, I sent students to her, she sent students to me, so it was a mutually beneficial. And she also, as a business, had that space always being used, because she was also the sole instructor. When I first started, it was me teaching all the time and running the business, and I eventually brought on another 3 girls.
You forgot to mention that you were also working full time.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
I was working full time in IT.
Yeah.
That's what I moved here for, right? To start my whole career in IT. And then it like turned into, I'm going to swing on a pole for a living.
Yeah. Wow. So you have this space. You start teaching classes. This is March 2018?
March 2018.
Okay. So you have this space, you're teaching classes, you're able to bring on a couple of instructors. What did you look for in those first couple of instructors, and how did you meet them?
So these were girls that had been my friends for years. We've been pole dancing together. And these are also girls that lived in the area.
Okay.
So we were literally driving an hour every single day to go take pole dancing classes.
Yeah.
That's how obsessed we were.
Right.
And I knew that there were people, because I had met them, that needed a space that was closer to home. So that also helped me make that decision too, is that I had those friends that were also instructors previously that I trusted and that I knew that I could drop into a class and not have to dedicate a lot of time because I never slept. And so having to also teach another person how to instruct would have been a lot. Yeah. So that's how I picked those first initial instructors, and I'm so happy that I did because they helped like round out the program and build up really like literally nothing to what we are now. Yeah.
And how long was it before you had to think about moving into another space?
Not even 6 months.
Wow. So what did that look like? Were classes full? Like, how did you know that it was time to expand?
So in that space, we had 6 poles.
Okay.
And
wow, wait, what? Wait, 388 square feet.
And 6
and
poles.
6 poles.
Okay, first off, we had no business having 6 poles in there. But like
you got to do what you got to do.
We were on top of each other.
Right.
Like literally.
Yeah. That's so like bonding though too.
My girls that came from like, we call it Shine 1.0.
Oh.
That came from that studio, like we literally call it like our baby studio because it was so small.
Yeah.
We were on top of each other. We would literally like squish against the walls so that we had enough space.
Yeah.
And we were doing 2 to a pole. So we would always have like 12 people in that tiny space.
Oh.
I remember we hosted a workshop with Claudia Renee and we had 18 people in that space. And Claudia and I were like, what happened? Like, what?
Wow.
I remember like apologizing to her and I'm like, thank God you're my friend.
Yeah, right.
But she, again, was like super accommodating. But it was that like moment where we were doing, 10 hours of classes a week and consistently hitting 12 and having a wait list, and people just were wanting to come in, and I didn't have any more hours. I literally could not give anything else in that space.
Right.
And so when that was happening consistently for months is when I started that journey to find the bigger space, and where I knew that we had a viable business, because I knew that no landlord was going to look at me with a business that they didn't understand and say, oh yeah, this is a viable business. Right. Some places didn't even look at me. Okay. Right. Like they didn't even like want to talk to me because they didn't understand what we did. Yeah. And I had to go like full Shark Tank style with my business plan, with everything.
How did you develop your business plan? Because, so you were a project manager in IT, correct? Right. So I'm sure in school they teach you a little bit about this, but
they don't teach you everything.
Right.
School does not teach you, okay, go to school if you need to go to school.
Yeah.
But
experience.
But experience-wise, they don't teach you that.
So how did you even know, one, that you needed a business plan, and 2, what did you do to develop that?
So as a project manager, it was my job to run almost like a mini business for each project from start to finish. And a lot of times my role was building out these business type plans, right? From idea, right, to presentation of, are we even going to kick off this project? Does it make sense? Are we going to have a return, right? So I had spent enough time building stuff out like that, where I had a basic understanding of the things that needed to go into a business plan. So the project manager side helped immensely. I don't think that I would be where I'm at in my business if I didn't have that background. And that's not to say that you have to have that, but it was definitely so helpful. The other part too was I didn't want to go into this and not have a plan. I did not want to walk into my big, beautiful space now and say, okay, let's throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what happens. Right. I knew that I needed a way to, one, be able to quit my job, my full-time job, so that I could do this full-time and live the life that I wanted to live without a plan. And I remember like turning in my first business plan and just like shaking. Like, is this good enough? Am I good enough? Like, did I do enough research? The other thing too is the power of the internet is amazing.
Yes.
You know, like there's so much out there. There's so much good information about how to write your business plan. There are a lot of people in the pole world that'll also help you.
Yeah.
So I actually have a couple of people that I work with too, that like we talk about business ideas and business plans because they either want to start their own studio or they're at a place in their studio where they're trying to figure out what they want to do next.
Yeah.
So it's all the information is out there.
Yeah.
You gotta find it.
Right.
You gotta seek it.
So you created this business plan. You already had an established business at that point where you were consistently exceeding what you had hoped for. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to build out. What did you do? How did you find the current space that we're in?
So I worked with a commercial realtor.
Okay.
And he showed me, this was the second space that I looked at. So the first space was not it. I know people can't see my face, but
feel it.
It was,
feel
you
it,
can
people.
feel it. But I walked into this space and I said, yep, this is home. It was a check cashing place.
How did you walk in and feel home?
I don't.
In a check cashing. Like, I'm here.
And they were like, this check cashing place was like Barney colors.
Oh my God. And you're like, I can work with this. That's how resourceful we are. Seriously.
And like, it had like bullet blue.
Oh my gosh.
Glass. Oh man. When I think about it, I'm just like, how did I see it?
Yeah.
I literally like made them get a ladder and like looked up to the ceiling, like through the ceiling tiles. And I was like, yeah, it looks pretty high.
Okay.
I was like, this is it. This is home.
Okay.
And I just think that because I started off in this like tiny closet, that seeing a space as big as we have now, and having that ability to open up and expand vertically was huge. And I knew I was going to make it work. I was going to have it. And I almost didn't get it because the owner didn't believe that this business could be viable. And every night we have the most cars in the parking lot.
I'm sure.
Every night.
I'm sure.
So I'm like, haha, eat your words.
So that feels so good. At this point, it was Shine, right?
Right.
Which I forgot to ask you.
Yeah.
Why Shine?
So I truly believe that everyone has a light within. You just have to let it shine. Our motto is choose to shine. Every day you wake up and you have an opportunity to choose how you're going to walk that day, right? And I always say, I'm going to choose to shine. I'm going to find that silver lining in whatever situation, and I'm going to shine. And I think that pole has a way of like buffing out whatever whatever dullness that you may feel that you have, or whatever. And pole and aerials has a way of just like buffing it out and just letting like you truly shine. And so that's why I chose it.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And at this point, had you done any of the branding that I'm currently seeing?
I had the logo.
Okay.
A good friend of mine put it together for me. And I literally, all I said was, my name is Shine Fitness Studio, and I want a pole for the eye.
Yep.
And he took it, and he found like the perfect girl on pole. And this is, no, you guys aren't here. We're looking at a piece that my fiance got commissioned for me for Christmas. One of my good friends painted this. It's a logo, and this is like leopard print in the middle because I love leopard print. But it's got like all of our studio colors like splatter painted and our logo in the middle. And so that's what Tara's looking at now. But I knew that pink was going to be our color. I knew that I needed to have a strong brand name because when you think of the name Shine, you think of like the sun and you think yellow or what have you, right? And I knew that I wanted us to have this recognizable brand. I wanted our colors because I knew that that was going to be how we were going to market ourselves. And now, like, people don't have to say Shine Fitness Studio. They say Shine. I do poll at Shine, and people know, right in this area that is Shine Fitness Studio. And they know that we're the pink studio and that there's pink everywhere.
You have done an incredible job of making your brand, like, very consistent through everything. Like,
thank you.
Just looking at your website, which your website is amazing, and I'm guessing some of that has to do with your background,
right?
But seriously, like, next level, clear messaging, really easy to navigate. How did you put all this together?
I want to say that it was like some cohesive plan, but it was a little bit spaghetti on the wall, right? I feel like on a macro level, there was like a big vision.
Okay.
But then when you like got down to it, there were, I mean, I've definitely I started off, I'll talk about the platforms that I'm on that I use my website for. So I started off using Squarespace.
Okay.
And I think that it's a great tool. I think it's really great to, if you have content that you want to put out there, Squarespace is really easy. It's user friendly. But drag, drop, put your information in, go. But I actually now use a company called Showit.
Okay.
And it's made more for like bloggers and photographers.
Nice.
But it basically makes WordPress so easy. Like literally drag and drop WordPress.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
it's so nice.
Making a note for myself.
It's really, really nice. And the templates that they have built in are beautiful already. And then there's other things that you can obviously like buy and whatnot. But it's a really great platform to make beautiful websites. And it's actually very super user friendly. Okay. There are like, obviously every platform has their quirks.
Right.
But I mean, their support is awesome. And you have the freedom to do these really beautiful dynamic websites.
Yeah.
It is a little bit more pricey than your Squarespace or your Wix.
Right.
But you do have that freedom. And if you think about your website, that is your first interaction with a client, right? So before a client even calls you, before they even, walk into your studio space, they're Googling, pull aerial studio near me, you're coming up. And then they're clicking on your website, or they're looking at your reviews, or they're going to your social medias, right? So that first impression is so, so, so important. Yes, you want to have a lot of information out there so that people can be as self-serving as possible, but you don't want to overwhelm them, right? You want to give them enough information to get to your studio, right? And then the selling point is your studio itself, right? And so I think that the platform that we're using now allows us to just create a much more beautiful, flowy, concise, easy way to navigate and get information about us.
Do you have any tips for anyone that's like currently looking at their WordPress website and like, oh my God, how? Why?
Move to Showit.
Okay. And so I want to talk a little bit more about your branding because like I'll take pictures and post all the things, but it is so well branded from the website to the studio to all the messaging. So can you talk to me a little bit about what you did in this space to kind of brand it?
Yeah, so I wanted, when you walked into the space, I wanted you to not feel overwhelmed with imagery or frou-frou everywhere, right? Like I wanted something that was clean because I wanted our movements to be what made this space, right? I wanted my girls, when they come to class, they show out in like the cutest outfits. Thank God that we have, as an industry, like created some phenomenal outfits.
Seriously.
Because when I first started, I felt like I was like wearing scrubs.
Yeah, right. I had like the fold over shorts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I knew that I wanted to give them a background because we're really big on recording ourselves for the journey, right? Whether you post it or not, great. Yeah. But I knew that I wanted them to have a clean background, that there wasn't just like crap everywhere, right? So when you walk into the space, it's nice, it's clean, it's crisp. And I knew, though, that because we were recording ourselves, I needed markers that were for sure you're at Shine Fitness Studio, right? So we have our logos in the background where people, if they are posting on social media, our logo's right there. You can see that you're at Shine. Part of it too is that we've incorporated, because our name is Shine Fitness Studio, right? We don't necessarily say that we're pole and aerial. So we incorporated the words pole and aerial into, I wouldn't say our true logo, it's more like an alternative logo that we use to explain what we do. Because when you think of a fitness studio and you say the word fitness, a lot of people don't think pole and aerial like right off the bat. And so I wanted to make sure that in our backgrounds that you were seeing that this is a pole, this is an aerial studio. And I also needed to make sure that we were on brand with our colors, right? So pink is our primary color, and then black, white, and gray are our other alternative colors. And so I wanted to bring those elements into the studio in some way. So we have like these pink lockers that I love.
Yes,
they
I
were
do too.
Like a garage sale find.
Really?
And then we painted them pink. They were like this horrendous blue color.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and so we painted them. And then the wall, we have this really cool geometric wall that is an Instagrammable moment. So people like to take pictures in front of it. When we do parties, the girls will pose in front of this wall.
And fun fact, you did that yourself.
Painted the whole wall.
It's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good little decompress to paint.
And then the other thing that we talked about was like even the hammocks.
The hammocks, they're pink. Everything is pink in the studio.
Yeah.
If we could have pink poles, we'd have pink poles.
Right.
But everything from our water bottles, our storage boxes, everything is within that color. And if pink is like far from like your favorite color, it could be a little overwhelming. But it's so like it's who we are, right?
Right. And it's not like in your face. There's pink everywhere. It's accents of pinks
accents,
and blacks and grays and white, and it really does create this identifiable brand for you. Did you like just have that experience to know like I need to create really clear messaging to get my point across, or?
Yes, because of, like I mentioned before, in that world where I was having to basically sell this project to my C-levels and having to say, this is why we need it. Part of that was having a clear, concise message, right? And conveying what exactly we were trying to do. So I knew that when I opened up the studio, I needed to know what we were trying to do in our space. How were people going to recognize us? What was going to be that thing that set us apart? Not necessarily like on the instruction side and what we're doing with our program, but what is that identifier to our name that people are going to recognize? And I think that it's a clean, crisp, like studio. When you walk in, you know, it's not throw up pink in front of your face, you know,
no,
but
it's calming.
Yeah,
it feels very, very crisp, like you're saying. It makes a lot of sense so that you can showcase what the people in here are doing, because that's what it's about, really.
Right. And I think that my tip to people that aren't really sure what their brand identity is to sit down and just start throwing words on a piece of paper. I mean, because that's really what I did, right? When I was picking Shine, I went through like a million different names. I didn't know if I was going to put pole and aerial because I didn't know what our studio was going to become, right? Pole and aerials will always be our primary backbone, but we also have these supplemental classes that work into and help build up your pole and aerial journey, right? But I sat down and I looked at all these words and I looked at different brandings and colors and Shine and what I could do with it, right? Like you can glimmer, you can glow, you can sparkle, you can radiate, right? All of those words work in with Shine. And so those are names of our membership packages, right?
Oh,
so you
very cool.
You start at a glow package, which is our lowest. And then as you start adding more classes to your package, all the way up to our unlimited package where you shine, you're going through this series. Like you glow, you shimmer, then you radiate, then you sparkle, then you shine, right? And as you start taking more and more classes and you're going through this journey, like your light is radiating and growing. And so that shows across the packaging as well. And so I think that it's important to, when you're picking out like the name or the brand or the identity, that you sit down and just start playing word association and what really like makes sense to go with your entire brand.
So good. Oh, so much intention.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it really does make this studio stand out. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Like,
thank you.
It's seriously incredible. And like seeing the pictures of what it looked like before in your first space, I mean, this is just insane. I want to talk a little bit about adding aerials in and how you went about introducing that.
So when we moved into our big space, so our original space had, I think, 10-foot ceilings. So when we added Lyra, I've also gone through the Spin City hoop instructor training, and I thought it was just a really easy apparatus to bring into the studio. But I also had like this, when I was a kid, I would always joke that I was going to run away to the circus. And now I say like, well, I just created my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I knew that I eventually wanted to branch out to aerials.
Okay.
Thankfully, one of my instructors, her sister-in-law, I also went through the hoop instructor training with.
Oh.
And she like literally lives down the street. And she reached out and said, hey, I think that you should add hoop and I would love to teach it. And I'm so thankful that she reached out, because she's helped build out our aerial program.
Very cool.
And I always say this, I am nothing without my instructors, because they have helped this program so much. They've got me in contact with other experienced instructors so that I didn't have to train from day one a brand new baby instructor, which now we're getting to that point where we're ready to start introducing brand new instructors and training them up and teaching them the Shine way of holding a class and whatnot. But the journey to aerials has been interesting because as a pole dancer, like I live and breathe pole. I can tell you every part of a pole. I can put up a pole with my eyes closed, you know, like it is so like natural to me at this point. But then on the aerial side, while I am knowledgeable in it, it's not necessarily my expertise. And so I really relied heavily on my instructor, who is now my studio coordinator. And so she is we have like a manager, like I'm the owner, and then we have two girls that are under me that work as a studio coordinator and then also an event coordinator, and we can get into like how that works.
Right.
But she really like helped me design out the space and what we needed, and it made that transition into bringing aerials in so smoothly. And my hammock instructor, phenomenal. She's so great, and she basically said, hey, these are all of the things that you need. I will be here. I will help you. I will be your biggest resource. And man, those two have just created the best aerial program. And I am forever, ever and ever grateful for them. So we're looking to add hammock back into our program right now. Obviously we had to put fabric away because there's just not really a great way to sanitize and go through that entire process. I mean, we have 24-foot ceilings, 30-foot ceilings in some spots. So getting up there and pulling them after every class is infeasible. But now we're kind of working through that and figuring out what that looks like to bring them back.
Right. And so you had this truss built in the studio, which also lends to the brand because it's black and again those really clean lines. But you added stall bars. So we have a million stall bars that were intentionally added so that we could do conditioning, that we could have almost like a built-in ladder to store our apparatuses, so we can climb up and when we have our hammocks in, they kind of drape over, so it makes like this really pretty effect so when you look up, you just see like fabric kind of cascading down. It's very dreamy. I'll have to show you pictures of that. But I wanted to make sure that we were doing more than just putting in a truss system, right? I wanted to make sure, one, that it was safe, but two, that we could actually do something with it. And so I actually had a friend design it, and she welded it all together. So I
I have my like band of like badass women that I like, that I love. So when I'm like, a woman did this, I'm like always like she.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this trust is never moving out of this space because we built it here in this space.
Yeah. Right. But it's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. It works.
How many lira and hammocks are you able to put in here?
So we have 6 of each.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm like blown away. I'm just.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's over 7,000 pounds of steel.
It's insane. That is insane. So talking a little bit about your staff, you initially started out just you, and then you brought on a couple of people, and now you've got like upwards of.
I'm
10.
at 10 now, and man, they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're great.
You mentioned that you have a studio coordinator and event coordinator. What do they do?
So my studio coordinator is in charge of the physical space.
Okay.
So she is in charge of making sure that we have everything that we need to live comfortably in this space, right? So everything from making sure that the space is clean, especially now we have upped our cleaning. I mean, we're cleaning between every single class.
Right.
We have built in time to clean.
Yeah.
But she's also coming in and she's deep cleaning. But on top of that, she's making sure that our rigging is still good. So she goes through and checks all of our rigging and ensures that there's not like tears or anything like that. She's also running our retail. So doing regular inventories, checking with the girls to see what they want, bringing in good brands.
Nice.
So anything that's physically like here that you can see and touch, she's in charge of that.
That's a lot of trust.
It is.
Yeah.
And we work hand in hand.
Good for you.
In all of it.
That's hard to let go of.
It was very difficult, but when I thought about how I was going to manage everything, and at that time I was still teaching, so I made the conscious decision to do private only and go private only because I wanted to really focus on building out the business.
Yeah.
Because if my head was stuck in teaching, I love teaching. Like it fuels my soul, and every now and then I'm like, hey, can I cover your class so I can like teach?
Yeah.
Because like it really just it's so much fun and I love it. But I knew that if I had a regular class, I was going to be spending too much time focused on building it out. So I took a step away, and then I got into the weeds and I was like, no, this is too much. And if I spread myself too thin, I'm not going to be able to deliver the way that the brand and our clients deserve to be delivered to, right? They deserve a certain level of service and they expect that level of service.
Right.
And if I'm too thin, there is no way that they're going to get that. So I sat down and I said, okay, here's a list of all of the things that I do on the operations side. What are some things that I, as a control freak, am able to let go and let somebody else run?
What were some of those things
that I was doing operationally?
Yeah, like that you were able to see, like, maybe I don't need to be the person folding the towels or, you know.
Right. So, I mean, I like to say that as an owner, you are the vision, right? And so what I do now and my whole every day is the marketing side of things, right? Going and talking about the studio to people, everything from the website to social media, and really making sure that our brand vision is being produced to the world as such. And then the things that were happening in the studio, I was able to step back and say, no, I don't think I need to be that person here 12 hours a day, like working through, you know, folding towels, doing laundry, ordering retail. There was also a need for events and bringing in very talented pole stars. So we try to do anywhere from 4 to like 6 pole stars a year.
Wow.
So our girls love it. If you look at our schedule, we're primarily beginner based because this is so new to this area.
Right.
But that means that our girls are so hungry to learn, and I love that. So anytime we have an opportunity to bring in a pole star, we do, and they regularly sell out, and that's so amazing for them. It's amazing for the studio,
Right.
and our girls are getting to learn from other people. I'm a huge advocate for go learn from other people, because the way that I explain something isn't necessarily the way that you learn how to do it. And my library of things that I can teach you only goes so far.
Right.
And so, bringing in those stars and working with them and scheduling that out. And then also our parties and events and whatnot. I knew that was something that, while it was fun, I could push that to somebody else to delegate that also had a passion and is good at it.
Yeah.
And so I took those points of where I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to be that person that was doing it, and said, you know what, I'm going to delegate this out to somebody else. And I think that's so important as studio owners, like knowing your weaknesses, knowing where you can stop and say, okay, I'm able to let somebody else take this over. But then also as a leader, like being able to say, hey, this is how I would like to see it done. And then also as a leader, like saying, okay, even if it's not done the way that I would have necessarily done it, like it got done.
Yeah.
Right. And it got done appropriately.
Right.
And also being able to have those hard conversations when it doesn't get done correctly. Right.
Yeah. Accountability.
So
for sure. This enabled you to do something really, really cool that I haven't really heard of, and work remotely running the studio, correct?
Yes.
So how does that work?
So my fiance and I made the decision to move back home. And I know that in the very first beginning, I was like, it's so conservative, it's awful. But it's grown a lot, it's changed. And so I was comfortable moving back because we are in pursuit of location number 2. Mm-hmm. And that's where I want to open up my second location. But when I made that decision, I knew that I needed to have people in place that I trusted to be here physically in the space full time. And so when I added in that studio coordinator, when I added in that event coordinator, those are my go-to girls here physically all the time. They're literally 3 minutes away from the studio.
Nice.
And I know that if we need anything that I can call them. But for me, the work that I'm doing and the work that I had done previously before we decided to go remote has made it easier for me to be away from the studio. And a lot of our students have no idea. So when they listen to this, they're going to be like, what? She doesn't live here?
Right.
But I just knew that I needed to put in the work to document everything, to make sure that everybody knew how to work the front desk, to how to, run the business side of things, not necessarily the higher level doing the books and whatnot, but on the operational day-to-day stuff, my team knows how to do everything, and I felt comfortable and I trust them to run the space. So I'm a week here and I'm a week home.
Nice.
So, and it works out really nicely.
Yeah.
My fiance is in sales, so he travels all over the state of Texas.
Okay.
And so he's gone a lot. So we work it out. When he's on the road, I'm here in Dallas.
Smart.
And when he's home, I'm home. And it also helps that we were able to save a little bit of money by doing that because I poured my entire life savings into the studio. Yeah. And so it was a decision that we made for us in order to just project us to the next level of where we wanted to go with the studio and our family and whatnot.
So was this pre-COVID that you decided to go remote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Yeah. And then kind of forced, you know?
But so we officially moved back home, and I went full remote in December 2019 is where I made that official move to be remote.
And then 3 short months later,
we had to basically shut everything down.
Right.
So when we had to shut the studio doors, we went fully virtual.
Okay.
And that actually gave me an opportunity to start teaching a little bit more. So I was teaching a lot of virtual classes. Some of my instructors didn't have the virtual bug, and I gave them that option.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, you know, if you want to teach, you can teach. If not,
different.
Yeah, it's different. And some, they didn't have a home poll because we couldn't even, like, we literally could not even be in the studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So even if we wanted to teach virtually in the studio, we couldn't have done that.
Wow.
I wasn't going to risk, like, somebody seeing us in here.
No way.
And so it was really that blessing that we had already decided to move back, and for me to go remote, because we were able to really just like hold on to a lot of income, and the studio has been able to overcome the shutdown because of it.
Right. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit. So how quickly did you have to pivot to teaching virtually?
So we started teaching virtually 2 weeks before we were forced to shut down.
Okay.
So obviously other states were shutting down before us.
Right.
And there had been whispers that Texas was next.
Yeah.
And I knew that we had to go virtual.
Yeah.
That was the only way.
Right.
If we weren't offering anything, I mean, we would have completely run through our entire supply of savings just keeping the doors open, because our landlord did not give us any rent relief, unfortunately. So I knew we did a free virtual class. It was a stretch class just to see, and we had 60 people sign up for that virtual class.
Whoa.
And of course it was free.
Right.
But still 60 people signed up. And, and so proof, right? I was like, okay, well, I guess virtual works.
Yeah.
And so we kept on adding more and more virtual.
Okay.
And then when the studio finally shut down, the students were already used to seeing virtual.
Right.
And so when we said, hey, we're shutting the studio down, or we have to shut the studio down, now all of our classes are virtual, we switched our platform a little bit because we didn't know how long we were going to be shut down. And we did more of our like supplemental classes.
Okay.
So we did more flexibility classes. We have a class called Just Peachy, which is a dance cardio class, and it's focused on your peach.
Yes.
It's got like twerking incorporated. It's got salsa, bachata, and I loved teaching that class. And then, we had a couple of pole classes because we still had students that had poles at home. So we were able to teach our beginner classes there. But it happened so quickly.
Right.
And I'm so thankful that I started before the shutdown.
Right.
And we were the first in our area to go virtual. And I think that that's what helped us get through all of this.
Right. And which platform are you using to host classes?
Zoom.
Okay, cool. Yep, great.
Zoom, yep.
Great platform.
Yeah, and it was something that I had previously used in my previous life, so I knew how to use it, I knew how to implement it and make it work for us.
Awesome. And so you've been able to sustain throughout how long?
Yeah, so March we shut down. June 1st we opened for privates only, and we had like very limited open studio.
Right.
And then July 1st is where we brought back full classes.
Okay. And what type of precautions? Like I see like a sanitizer station. So what are you doing here?
Yeah, so we have completely like revamped our whole cleaning schedule, right? So we added a 15-minute buffer to allow for us to sanitize everything.
Right.
We have a wellness check, so when you walk in, you get asked the 4 like key questions.
Okay.
We take your temperature, you sanitize, you wipe your feet down before you go into the studio.
Smart.
Everything that's from the outside world pretty much stays in like the little like lobby area.
Okay.
We also have baskets at every station or like every pole or apparatus, and in those baskets, you're keeping your water bottle, your grip. You also have like your spray bottle, your towels. And we took away like anything that's like high touch, like brochures and cups and whatever. We took all of that out and we just said, hey, we're not going to put it out. We don't want people touching things.
Right.
So we're cleaning in between. Before, after, my budget for cleaning supplies is through the roof now. I feel like I'm just like constantly like buying more, and I'm like, hey, guys, if you're just, please stop buying the Clorox wipes. I need them for my studio.
I know. It's nuts. It's nuts.
But everybody has to wear masks. That's a city mandate. We can't have class sizes bigger than I guess with the instructor, 10 people, which is
difficult.
Yeah. It has been difficult.
Because this is how you make your money.
Right.
So I saw that online there are hybrid classes now. So can you tell me a little bit about those?
Yeah, so we set up our camera in front of the instructor, and so she's teaching a class here in the studio, and then she is also teaching online.
Okay.
So if you're taking a class online, you kind of get like that class experience because you can at least like see your classmates.
Right.
You're still at home, but you can still see the instructor. She checks in on you to make sure that you're good to go. On the instructor side, it is difficult to manage both.
Oh yeah.
But man, the girls have done so great, and they've been awesome. And we've been able to build out a huge library of classes. I think now we're at 140 classes that we have recorded on our on-demand platform that now our members have full access to. So if they're at home, they can practice at home. So we're pivoting, right? And we're using them as value adds to our studio. And we're trying to find a way to continue running and monetizing on what we can do, right?
I found it incredibly impressive that your in-person classes are sold out for weeks. Like pretty much any time I come and visit a studio, I always try to sign up for a class or, to just get the full vibe. And I could not sign up for a class here. I was like, oh, well, I'll do virtually because the next 3 weeks that I'm here, everything's sold out.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Bananas.
Like, given the state of affairs right now, how do you know how you did that?
We set up a Zoom call with our current members, and we said, okay, if we are able to open the studio back up, do you want to come in, right? And I think it's so important as instructors, as studio owners, that you are constantly talking to your members. So when we shut down, we did not change memberships. We didn't pause anything. We basically said, we're still offering our knowledge. When you go to a restaurant and you order takeout, you're still paying full price for your takeout, right? The wealth of knowledge and the time that our instructors have spent to become incredible instructors, we don't devalue that just because we can't necessarily be in the studio space. And our students are so incredible that they never questioned it, which I thought was, thank God for them, because they have kept this place, booming and going. So I got a good chunk of people said that if we can come back safely, what are you going to do? Right. And so I vowed to them what I was going to do, right? And we've implemented that. And if you go onto our website, I've built out this beautiful PDF
it is.
document that outlines everything that we've changed in the studio, how to make you feel safe, to build that trust with our clients. The reason why I didn't put it on my website as content is that I didn't necessarily I wanted there to be a space that if you wanted to like download and like read it, that you could. I wanted it to be just a quick, like concise package that if I needed to drop it in email to somebody that I could, right?
Smart.
And so I built out this PDF that has everything from what happens before class, what happens when you arrive, what happens during class, what happens after class, right? Walking them through their experience post shutdown, right? And what that experience is going to look like. And they came back, and they came back in like numbers. And I started off slowly, right?
Okay.
I didn't put so before we shut down, we were doing 27 classes a week. And so now we're back at around like 20-ish classes a week.
And have you just slowly added more back in?
And now we're slowly adding more back in. But we used to do 2 people per apparatus. So we were able to bring in double the amount of people that we were able to. And so that's part of the reason why you have these gigantic wait lists.
Right.
So we actually limit it to 4 people because we just didn't want this big buildup of people, hoping that they were going to get in and not. So I'm very, 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 very grateful for our clientele, that they're loyal to us, that they live and breathe Shine, and that they are willing to come in, that they want to come in, that they
Yeah.
want to learn. I mean, I like to think about like how I was as a client,
Right.
and the things that were important to me,
Right.
and they're asking all the right questions, and they're, and they're helping us shape our protocols, and
Nice.
along with, of course, like the
government, yeah,
recommendations
right.
and whatnot. But
Right.
I don't know how we're going to find more time to add classes,
Right.
and bring in more to accommodate everybody.
It's a good problem to
It's
have.
a good problem to have, but it's like,
Yeah.
I need to expand the space.
Right. Which is next.
Which is next.
So you open your first space in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much immediately have to expand to a bigger space.
Right.
You're in this space, like barely a year.
Barely a year.
And we're, here we are right now. And now you're getting ready to not only open a second space, but also expand this space. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you know again that it was time to start looking at expanding this space?
So we consistently had sellout classes. And again, this is where we're having 2 people per apparatus.
Right.
And
Wow.
we have 2 people per apparatus regularly. And there were some days, and of course, like we have everything capped out so that we
Right.
can, hold the appropriate amount of
Yeah.
people. But we were getting more and more requests of, I want to take pole classes every single day, or I want to take aerial classes every single day. And the way that our studio is built out is we have pole one day, we have aerial
Right.
the next day, pole, aerial, right? And we have to switch because we pull the poles down and we
Right.
re-rig everything. And so it's so
Yeah.
cumbersome to have to do that between every single class
Right.
day. So we built out the schedule, and it also like kind of gives us a built-in like rest day.
Yeah.
If you're solely pole,
Right, right.
you have that built-in rest day, but
Yeah.
it also has this pain point of how am I going to progress
Yeah.
appropriately?
Right.
And so I knew that I wanted a full pole program, and I knew that I wanted a full aerial program, and I needed to get to our membership marker and have that hit consistently for months. And once we hit that, I knew that I could afford the space next door.
How perfect that it's next door. And is it like same ceiling height?
So the ceilings are already at 12 feet there.
Okay.
So we wouldn't necessarily need to reopen it.
Nice.
So it becomes our pole space. So
Nice.
the space that we're currently in now becomes our aerial space. Next door is our pole space. We'll have a training room, a dedicated front desk, locker rooms, showers, like the whole shebang.
Wow.
So we'll go from 1,500 square feet to 37.
Wow.
And man,
Incredible.
What a journey, and
Yeah.
what a time to be
Yeah.
in the
To be
headspace.
alive.
To be alive. Yes, but
Seriously.
like to be able to expand. And let me also put this,
Yeah.
I'm not in this for money in any way, shape, or form. When I was in IT, money was great.
Right.
But when I left, I knew that I was going to be rich in like love.
Yep.
And like I was going to be rich in knowing that I was going to be empowering people and like spreading the good word of pole and aerials, you know? Like that's what I felt like I was going to be quote unquote rich in, right? Or wealthy in. The vision for expanding is so that I can continue to bring like more and more people in to learn, to love themselves, to go through that same thing that I went through, to really like shine their brightest, right? I know, and like I think my fiance like rolls his eyes when I say shine now because he's like, gosh, here's another shine thing. But no, like it's so true. Like I really just want people to like feel the same things that I felt in that transformation. And how beautiful is it that you also get like a workout and you a community out of it, like, but first and foremost, like you're loving yourself. Gosh, what a day.
Yeah, seriously. It's incredible. And
the beautiful thing about doing it once here is that I have the blueprints to do it in another location. The hard part about the second location is that there's not a studio there. So
You're educating from the
I'm
get-go.
educating from the which I had to do here, right? But I literally, it's going to be me again.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting that journey, starting that search. I'm building out the program that I want to help bring up instructors. And I'm not a huge, like, you have to be certified, right? Like, I've gone through these certification programs, and I think that they're great.
Yeah,
they provide a really great foundation, but there is still there's that element of, like, the business side of, like, how do you want your instructor to portray your brand? How do you want your instructor to teach the X way, right?
Right.
So, like, we always say the Shine way of doing things, and other studios out there may have whatever studio way of doing it. And there's a way to bring up your instructors, and there's a way to teach them to represent you. And at that, like, if your instructor is an independent contractor, you know, they have that ability to go and teach wherever they want, right? And how do you work with your independent contractors to live and breathe your brand when they could also be teaching at another studio?
Yeah.
And so there's ways to navigate that realm and that path, and so that's what I'm trying to build out now, and so that when I do go and open that second location, that I can get students going, and then develop and build them up into instructors to help me out.
So cool.
Planting seeds.
And
Planting
it also
seeds.
builds them up too. I mean, being an instructor is one of the most special things I've ever done. Just teaching.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is.
And you don't even, and, like, students don't realize that, like, they give us so much.
Right.
Like, they're you know, they love their instructors, and they're like die hard.
Right.
But, like, they don't realize, like, they
get
give
it
us
back so much. So much.
I'm like, you don't even realize, like, what you do for me.
Yeah,
right. And as a studio owner too, it can be very isolating to be a studio owner.
Yeah.
It can be, I mean, every decision that you make affects so many people. It can be a scary world to navigate. And so having those other studio owners that you can bounce ideas off, having a team that you trust, right? And having my coordinators that are like my right and left-handed girls, you know, that help me make the decisions, talking with my instructors, having those conversations with the students, make being an owner less isolating.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you have that, that you built that, honestly, that you built that around you, because it is isolating, you know, and if you don't have anybody to reach out to, any mentors, anyone that is going around the same trajectory as you're trying to do, I imagine it's just hard. One other thing that I have to mention that I thought was really cool that you did, you mentioned that if you bring in a pole star, that you'll refer them to other studios. Can you tell me about that?
I try to have relationships with other studios that are within a driving distance of us, not only within the DFW area, but also within Oklahoma. So I have become friends. We became friends because we competed against each other.
Oh, nice.
At a competition.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, your competition becomes your friends.
I hear that so much though,
and
within
only
this industry.
in this industry.
Yeah.
Like, in every other industry that I've ever been in.
Right. It's weird. Like, that's been one thing that's really surprising, is that people are building bonds during competition, which, you know, again, with this community or industry, it makes sense, but it doesn't happen any other time. So anyways, so you competed against her.
We became friends, and we both realized that we had a draw to a lot of the same pole stars that we wanted to bring in. So when I am thinking about the pole stars that I want to bring in, I also reach out to her and say, hey, I'm thinking about bringing this person in. I will give your girls our members discount. So our members, when you become a member here, you get 10% off of workshops, which is a nice perk for being a consistent member. So I partner with them and say, hey, if you bring girls, we'll also help the pole star that's coming in, right?
Yeah.
But it also helps our studio.
Yeah.
And then it gives them a little bit of a deal. And now we've created this relationship with a studio, they're not direct competition, right? And they're coming in and they're able to learn, and they only have to drive like 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have to go to Korea
right. Like you did.
Like I did.
Yeah.
But I also work with, like, if I have somebody, you know, coming in, I will even say like, hey, you're in this area, here are some other really good studios, because as much as we try to like have like a big directory of all the studios that are out there, sometimes some get missed, right? Like even in Google searches, if you're a newer studio, you're not going to show up at the top, right? Nope. And so there's that always that ability to say, hey, go try this, go try and teach at this studio. And when I have people come in, we're booked. We want to make sure that that person is getting the best out of their time to travel, because it's hard on to travel and teach, and it's hard on their body, it's hard mentally, I mean creatively, I'm sure, you know, and so I want to make sure that they have a full group here, and it again just builds up that community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask, how have you addressed Black Lives Matter in your studio?
So we participated in donating. So we donated. We had a lot of conversations about it. We have a very diverse group of women that come through the studio. I myself being a Latina, and that has, like we talked about, experienced racism. It was so important to me to make sure that in our community that we've built here in our studio, that everybody felt welcomed, and that if there was something that they felt uncomfortable with, that they had a safe place that they could, right? We had a lot of conversations. We're so lucky that all of our students share the same values that we do, and so having that conversation as a group and saying, we don't stand for this, we're not going to do it, this is an inclusive environment and we're always going to be inclusive, and if we as a studio stand together, we're going to bring up this community, right? So I wanted to make sure that everybody, when they walk through this door, that there was no question about if they were going to be treated differently because of the color of their skin, right? It was so important to me that everybody can walk through this door. We sat down and talked as a group and just said, this is what we stand for, this is what we're not going to put up with. I had to have hard conversations with family members and say like, hey, we're not doing this, you know? Right. It has opened our eyes to how we better service our community as well. I think that it has given us an opportunity to really like do that soul searching within us, to make sure that when we say everybody can shine, that means everybody, right? And so I'm proud of like how we've been able to do that, and how we've been able to continue to implement that saying.
I appreciate how it sounds like there's this consistent back and forth between you and your clients or your students
regularly.
How you have always gone to them for feedback. And I think, birds of a feather flock together, but like continuing to have those open lines of communication are what make it so that people feel comfortable bringing things up. So I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is your clients are the reason why you exist, right? And if you don't go back to them, if you don't have those conversations, if you aren't completely transparent with them, you don't have anything, right? And so like when it came to having to shut down, when it came to Black Lives Matter, when it came to anything that's happening in the world, right? Like we've always talked to them about it. We've always said, when there was Blackout Tuesday, we sent an email and said, we're standing and we're not holding classes. We're going to take this day to educate ourselves, and we encourage you to do the same. And we have, students will have openly send me information and say, hey, did you see this? Or, and I'm always happy to receive it and have conversations with them about it, because I don't have everything in my brain, and there's so many other viewpoints that I'm always happy to hear and always happy to listen to and receive. And I think that that's allowed us to grow.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I completely agree. And I'm grateful that these spaces continue to happen, because this is the safest place I've ever known. you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm done crying now. What do you do for fun? Do you have time for fun? I mean, I know this is somewhat fun, but...
Yeah, so I love traveling, which is why I've been able to travel the world now, I can say, doing what I love. So like when I went to Korea and trained in Korea, that was an absolute blast. And everywhere I go and I travel, I always try to stop by and see different studios. And it also helps me for my own studio, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, when I'm not at the studio, I'm gone fishing,
nice,
right? Like
really,
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm at the coast with my fiance.
Nice.
We're outside in some way,
Yep.
traveling, hanging out. I also have recently gotten really big into like calligraphy.
Oh, very cool.
And so that's been like really like therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
My hand says otherwise because
So tired.
who writes with it?
Right.
Who writes these days?
You're right. So pretty though.
Yeah, but
Soothing.
I am by no means the best, but that's why we practice, right?
Yep.
So that's been like really fun to like create in that way. And yeah, so just unplugging from the studio as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in Puerto Rico picking out our venue for the wedding. It's magical.
Yeah, so cool.
But I was still like working, but it doesn't feel like work because I love what I do so much that it's just like I don't mind like picking up the phone to talk to a client, or I don't mind like answering emails while I'm on the beach in Puerto Rico or whatever, you know, like
what a gift, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of traveling, nature things.
Nature things. And what is your favorite type of music to dance to?
I have recently been just like jamming out to instrumentals.
Ooh, yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
lo-fi,
Yeah,
like
Same.
It's
same. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
just going to
yeah.
interrupt you. But like, I don't know what it is, but like, not like super high tempo or anything, but just like floaty, flowy.
Yeah.
No words, just chill allows me to like go in so deep to whatever I'm doing and really just like move.
Right. I'm like not focused on what they're saying and
Right.
like hitting a certain cue.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
more just like, it's more fluid, I
Yeah,
feel like. And
feeling
so, yeah, that's been really fun for me, exploring
I like
in that
it.
way.
I like it.
If other than that, it's probably like really ratchet.
Yeah, good. I love it. That's awesome.
It's just like down and dirty.
Fantastic. That sounds about right for studio life, you know? And your favorite performance of yourself that you've ever done?
Okay, so my very first like ever performance was at an Amy Henderson Halloween. Like for her class, like she always had like a Halloween themed class, and it was like where we would just jam.
Yeah.
And so everybody would dress up, and I dressed up as Britney Spears.
I love it. What year? Like which Britney?
Britney, I'm a Slave for You.
Yep,
Snake.
okay, yep.
And I had like a stuffed snake,
Nice.
and my mom like
The green
like
top.
like
Yep.
had sewn the screen top and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
what a time. I'll show you the pictures.
Right.
I even had a blonde wig.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was trying to be Britney Spears.
Aren't we all though? Aren't we all?
Right. And there was like, I had like my back towards the audience and I like turned around and I remember Amy like just being like, yes. Like she has it. If anybody's ever trained with Amy, they know like this Amy like, yes, like shrill, like it's like her signature, like cheer you on. So that was like one of my favorite moments, was my very first one. And like, I think I did like 3 tricks and I was like, I'm so cool.
Yeah, right.
But I really felt I was channeling that Britney.
Yeah.
And then I think after that was my first competition. I did a piece and I had this like really long high-low skirt. And it was one of the first times that I had realized that pole could be something else too, right? Like there was just so many other facets to the pole world, and performance-wise and practice-wise too. But it was so fun to get to show like my family. That was the first time that they had ever seen me perform. It was the first time that my students had ever really seen me perform. And so like getting on stage and just showing like a different piece, that was so fun for me. And I really just like, that was probably one of the first times that like I had enjoyed like putting together a competition piece. Like I've competed in many other like industries in my past lives where I felt like getting ready for competition like wasn't that fun for me. But like that competition piece was so much fun getting, and I changed my song like 2 weeks before.
Oh really? That's me.
And
I do that.
I was like so set on like this is the song, and then I changed it, and it flowed and it worked, and I'm so happy that I did.
Is there a video from that?
There is.
Okay, I need to see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And your favorite performance from somebody else?
We talked about this.
Okay.
Full body chills. So Nadia Sharif did the Muse performance from Miss Pole Dance America that I got to see live.
Jealousy.
Yes.
Jealous.
So Amy also performed in that one, and so we were going out there to see her. And actually, a girl in my bridesmaid was in Amy's performance.
Oh, really?
So I was supporting the whole DFW team, but then I got to see these incredible like. Amber Wolf's like got out there. Oh my God. When she like swung across. That was like
cool. Like that moment when she was just like holding and she like looks at the audience and then just drops.
Yes.
Like,
and then, okay, the energy in that whole space,
oh my
like
God.
Everybody was on the edge of their seats. Like every performance was like,
oh my God, Bryn, the deer.
And then like every moment was so genius. Like it was, I feel like we need a whole, like somebody needs to break down and do like a full commentary of like how amazing.
I'll do it. Alethea. I'll do it. Hit me up.
No, but like that every performance like was so inspiring. But the thing that like was so incredible about Nadia's was that every single element had a purpose. Like from the tumble that she did to her picking up her foot and making it look like the machine. Like it was so freaking cool. Yeah. And like when I got home, I was like, everybody watch this. Like you have to. And then let's also not forget like the Alice in Wonderland piece.
Okay. You know what's crazy is that all these have been mentioned. Like that Alice in Wonderland was legit the coolest group performance.
It was so.
Well, I mean, Black Girls Pole at PoleCon was super dope too. But like they're equal. Like so good. I got to see they did like an updated one at Pole Expo. And Nadia was added into it. I think she was like the caterpillar. The caterpillar. Yeah. That was super sick.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah.
Oh, that whole troupe is just like
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, what, like, if you think about like where Pole started,
right,
and now I'm sitting here on a podcast in my own studio,
right,
breaking down like elements to routine. Like what an incredible journey. And think about 10 years from now where we're gonna look back on this and be like, holy cow, oh, what a time to be alive.
So Nadia, but also just Miss Pole Dance
that whole
America.
whole experience.
It's all about the show. Oh, so good. Well, thank you so much. I have taken up so much of your time. Thank you for, giving me human interaction other than my husband. It's been a while. And thank you for creating this incredible space and sharing so much of your journey with all of us. I can't wait to come back and see what you do next.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for just sitting down. I think it's incredible that our universes, our
Yeah,
worlds collided.
Shout out to Carrie for recommending that I come out here and interview you, because this is seriously impressive, and I'm just so excited to share this interview. So
Thank you.
Okay, creatures. We'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Aerial Hour. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something new, I want to hear about it. Your words and feedback fuel this show, so here are 3 simple ways you can support the Aerial Hour. Number 1, hit subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Number 2, share a screenshot on your IG stories of your favorite takeaway from this episode, tagging at the Aerial Hour. I absolutely love seeing these posts. And number 3, write us a review. This is the ultimate way to support the show, and it will only take a couple of minutes. You can leave a review on Apple Podcast or on our Facebook page. I'll be shouting out a new reviewer each week, so make sure to drop yours in there. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next time. You forgot to mention that you were also working full time.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
I was working full time in IT.
Yeah,
that's what I moved here for, right? To start my whole career in IT, and then it turned into I'm gonna swing on a pole for a living.
Wow.